Hi, and welcome to Street Beat. My name is Mark Wagner. I'm your host. Today's guest is Brian McBride, former LBJCB and LGSD drummer. Welcome, Brian.
Thanks, Mark. Great to be here.
So, how did you get started in syncopated drumming?
Well, given that some thought, it's been quite an odyssey for me, starting starting in 1975. Um, I grew up in a nice neighborhood in Lakewood, near the corner of Lakewood Boulevard and Carson Street, just about a mile away from Veterans Stadium. I remember as a kid, I could hear the drums in the distance. So that was a familiar sound in the neighborhood. I was hearing those syncopated drums. I didn't know it at the time that was the sound of my destiny. so, but I grew up with a couple of guys in my neighborhood, Rob Sainberg, Mark Bergendahl. We all had drum sets in our bedroom. So we had the drum bug, started with drum set. And we used to love to put on our headsets, play drums to the radio songs, and we all took lessons together. This is like 12 years old or so. So every Saturday we take a drum lesson. So Wayne Guard, I think he was the director of Long Beach City College at the time. Some people might know the name, Mr. Guard. He lived near us and he gave music lessons from his home. And so every Saturday morning, Mark and Rob and I would take our drumsticks, our snare sticks, and we would practice the 13 rudiments on snare in front of Mr. Guard and learn the rudiments. And we also learned, he had a drum set, so we learned some basic drum set beats. And I guess I could say that's kind of the foundation of us as drummers. Mark and Rob, and even Mark's younger brother, Matt, would all become syncopated drummers, starting with Rob. So from there, time lapse to high school. Mark and Rob go off to junior high school, Hoover Junior High School, and then Lakewood High School. I went to St. Anthony's High School, freshman year, 1975. And I remember the first week of school, they had a pep rally for the whole student body. So the student body is all walking over to the gymnasium, and I'm walking along with the horde of people, and I could hear a marching band coming around the corner. And the band room was kind of in the back alley of the campus. St. Anthony's marching band comes around the corner, and they're playing When the Saints Go Marching On, the school song. And then they go into the street beat. It was one cadence. That's all the band had, was this cadence that they played over and over. But it was really loud because they were marching down an alley, and it sounded great, you know, and, it kind of stirred something inside of me. And it was a small squad, like 3 snares, 2 tenors, and a bass and a cymbal, but they sounded loud, and the cadence had a really cool tenor solo in it and stuff. And I ran over to the alley and watched them, and I didn't know in my freshman year what I was going to do as far as an activity. I thought about football team, but you had to shave your head, and I had long blonde hair at the time, believe it or not. And so I didn't want to shave my head. Basketball, no, I'm too short. Baseball, no, I tried Little League, that didn't work. But when I saw those drummers, I thought, that's what I want to do. So later that week, I found the band room, introduced myself to Monty Moore, the band director at the time, and joined St. Anthony's band. So that really starts my life as a drummer, and it was syncopated. And so I learned that street beat, and that's when I just learned how to march and play a drum at the same time, wear a uniform. And then we marched like halftime shows for the football team, football games. So we'd learn all those maneuvers on the field. We marched some parades. We marched Disneyland Main Street, I think I remember we did, St. Anthony's band. It was about a 50 student band, not big, but we marched some parades and Disneyland, and I think Magic Mountain even. So that was my start. Meanwhile, Rob Sainberg, he discovers LBJCB. So his mom was a music teacher at Long Beach City College, and she was also in the Long Beach City College jazz band as a pianist. And so she could always hear during rehearsals LBJCB practicing over at Betts. And she heard the drums and she thought, oh, my son Rob, who's just obsessed with drum set, he might like this group. So she sent him over there to check it out. And the bottom line is he joined. So Rob joined, became a drummer, snare drummer. You'd have to talk to him about the details from his perspective of how it happened. But I just remember he started wearing the brown and gold sweatshirt. It's the first time I saw the sweatshirt. And he started talking about it. And I noticed the calluses on his hands. He had cut his hair short. And I'm like thinking, what's up with this? You know, and he raved and raved on about the drummers and all this. And then he started to recruit me. And I argued with him because I thought, why would I join a second band? I'm already in St. Anthony's band, you know? And he said, oh no, you gotta see this band. This band takes the best students, musicians from all the high schools to form a championship marching band. I said, really? Well, you know, I was reluctant, but he kept pushing. I'd say no. He'd say, come on, just come down and watch. And if you don't like it, I won't even talk about it anymore. So I did. So neither of us drove. So he got a Masterson brother to give us a ride over to Vet Stadium. So it was Tom Masterson, his little brother, Wally. Tom was a snare drummer, Wally a cymbal player, Rob in the back, and me. And off we went to Vet Stadium. So when we pulled up, I got my first look at the band trucks. And immediately I realized, okay, this is a marching band on a whole different scale because two band trucks, all these instruments coming down, tall flags, the rolling banner, dozens of kids kind of warming up their instruments, and the drummers with their red sparkle drums were out and about, strapping on, banging on their drums as loud as they can, which they called tuning up, which is pretty hilarious. Bang on the side of a bass drum, tune it, bang it again until it sounds right. I'm watching this going, oh my God, these guys are crazy. Never seen anything like it. So then 4 whistles, which from the drum major, time to form the band ranks. And they click off with a rim beat, first I'd ever heard it. And man, that rim beat sounded great. I mean, something really stirred inside of me. And then there was a click that the drum intro, da 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 da, and they went into 1 through 5. And when they got loud, my jaw dropped. I couldn't believe it. Never seen a drum section like this ever. And in an instant, I felt this mix of emotions, like yearning, like, damn it, I'm missing out on this. I immediately felt like, I should have joined this a long time ago when Rob did. You know, it was an urgent feeling like I've got to join this drum section in this band. I was instantly like, Rob, you're so right. I was so wrong. Were you trying to beg me to come? So I was just waiting for the end of the band practice to tell Rob, I want to get in. And that's how it happened. So he introduced me to Lonnie Dacchiato. So this is the era of Lonnie Dacchiato, head drummer. This is past the Walt White drum major era, and Jeff Pica was drum major. And that would become Jeff Pica to Greg Golson, drum major, Lonnie Dacchiato to Dave Gepforth. So I came around at the Lonnie Dacchiato era. So he takes me and we start walking along the chain link fence, and he starts asking me, so you want to start on cymbals, snare drum? A lot of cymbal players learn on cymbal first, and then they switch to snare or tenor, whatever. You can start you on snare. So I could tell he didn't know that I had any marching band experience. So I told him, well, I'm in St. Anthony's band. I play snare drum there, but I'd really like to try for a tenor drum. There was a long pause because I wasn't a really big guy, 150 pounds. And you should have seen the tenor drummers back then. Carl Harkey, Greg Peepoy, Jeff O'Keefe, just this line of like really muscular guys compared to me. So I could tell Lonnie wasn't, he was kind of hesitant, but I said, let me try. If I can't get in on tenor, cymbals or whatever you want, I just wanted in, so I became a tenor drum trainee. They introduced me to Jeff O'Keefe. He became my big brother, big guy, fun. He started drilling me on the hand signals, the cadences, how to twirl the mallets, because we did all these twirls during the songs this way, while the songs were playing. He taught me all that and got me ready for my first tryout. So the first tryout was at Vet Stadium after band practice. It was along what used to be like a grassy driving range. There's a building on it now, and there was a long sidewalk with a tree. One of the trees had a crooked branch. I just remember a lot of drummers sitting on the branch. Some guys were smoking cigarettes. It was very dramatic. You guys, I don't have to tell you, the drum tryout was a very ceremonious ritual. It was very intimidating at first. So as a young trainee, I was shaking in my knees, just hoping that I could remember the hand signals. Very intimidating. Lonnie stares at me and says, "You're ready," and counts it off, rim beat. And then off I went. So my first tryout didn't go too well. I screwed up some of the hand signals, got tired pretty fast, made some mistakes, and it ended. And I did not get voted in. Of course, most of you know, nobody hardly got in on their first tryout, LBJCB. Maybe one or two guys ever did. So I kind of just, got back with Jeff. So we got ready for my second tryout. And having experienced the tryout, it demystified it. And I felt more confident going in the second time. And I realized what I need to learn and focus on is the hand signals and the transition from cadence to cadence. That's what I focused on. So forget the endurance. That's going to have to come later. I just want to play the cadences right. So my second tryout, again, at Vet Stadium at the end of practice. And that one went way better. I nailed it. I played every cadence correctly, knew the hand signals, played the transitions. Yes, I got tired halfway through it, but a couple of the tenor drummers were kind of hopping up and down, excited. And I thought, oh, okay, I'm doing it. And Lonnie would push you to test your endurance. And I was just struggling. And then it ended. And I had no idea really how I did, because some guys, other trainees, were on their fifth tryout. So I thought I'm in for the long haul. Well, I got voted in, second tryout.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It took me probably 3 to get in.
Oh, good for you. That's pretty good. Yeah, I know guys who tried 5, 6 times and they got in. But that was really cool. If you fought hard enough and struggled and kept coming back, usually you'd get voted in. They'd see that the heart that you had, that you wanted it so bad.
Yeah, my twin sister got me in the band. She was a pageantry girl.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, so that was your entry point. That's cool. Yeah, so what I can say is that began, so they come and they shake your hand and they're pushing you and they're saying, "Congratulations, Brian, welcome to the Brotherhood." Carl Harkey comes up to me and says, "Here, Brian, you can borrow my sweatshirt till you get your own." And that right there was a turning point in my young teen life. It opened up just so many doors socially. See, my drummer story is probably most of yours too, is equally syncopated drums with a layer of coming of age and all the lessons and growth, basically coming of age from childhood to manhood. A lot of guys in high school and stuff get in football team, whatever. For me, it was marching band. I was instantly handed a brown and gold sweatshirt. I had a big group of drummers that now considered me their brother. And just being in this marching band that had a schedule, my whole life changed for the better. And I had a schedule, we had a mission, the band itself was working to be the best championship band around, and the drummers were dead serious about being the best drum section around. And I ate it up. I became obsessed. And it was awesome. 3 of the best years of my life. So my first performance, uniform performance, was Shrine Show 76. That was at the Shrine Auditorium. It was a showcase of several marching bands. I don't remember if we kicked it off or finished it as the grand finale. I just remember our drum feature, started with Cal Poly Fanfare, or what was the other one? Crown Imperial. Big fanfare, spotlights on us, and then boom, drummers march out, plant their feet at the edge of the stage. I'm there in uniform for the first time, shaking, just saying, I hope I can remember the drum cadences. And then it's clicked off, boom, boom, boom. We went into a 5-minute set, just balls to the wall. There's no warm up, just you're playing and your muscles are aching, you're in your uniform. And I just remember I couldn't see anything. All I saw in the spotlights were the gold plume feathers floating around, because drummers, especially tenor drummers, would thrash those gold plumes on the shakos. I just doing that. And that was so exciting. It was the adrenaline rush of my life. So that was my first. And then my first uniformed parade was Vegas. I marched Vegas, first time in uniform in 100-degree heat. I thought I was going to die. I was still working on that endurance thing, man. But they'd plant me in between Greg Peepoy and Carl Harkey, and those guys would ride you. Come on, get your arms up. We'd be in parade, and they'd just be, come on, you can do it, McBride, get your arms up. And that was the kind of training I got, even after I was voted in. And the thing that turned it for me as far as endurance was, okay, for my junior year in the high school, I transferred to Lakewood High School, because I was really so obsessed with the drum section that I wanted to be closer to the drummers who went to Lakewood High. So I transferred my junior year, left St. Anthony's, and I joined gymnastics and became a ring man, gymnastics, and built my upper body. That's right there why I was able to hold my own as an otherwise pretty small tenor drummer. I built my upper body and, was able to survive a 2-3 mile parade just playing straight through. It was brutal, as you all know. And back then, it was just overwhelming. So Vegas in 100-degree heat, it was so hot that at the end of the parade, Marvin would not let us circle up, and the drummers were moaning, groaning about it. But I'll confess, like inside I was going, oh my God, a lucky break. Because I was dying, man. Anyway, I could go on and on about 1976. It was like the best era to be in the band for me, because it was a bicentennial year, and so a marching band like LBJCB, red, blue, gold, white uniforms was in high demand. We had such a heavy schedule in 76, 77, marched all the parades, all these stand-up shows, Rec Park, Bixby Park, downtown Long Beach. We did the opening ceremonies for the Space Mountain ride in Disneyland. We did the opening ceremony for the Sky Jump ride at Knott's. I remember that. We were on television. There was like an Ethel Merman special that had Foghat kind of in between the drum ranks, singing one of their songs. We did a scene in the King Kong movie that was being produced in 1977. Just on and on. And then in 77, the big Hawaii trip. Now, that was Marvin's dream at the time, to get the band over to Hawaii and just island hop, play all these stand-up shows in the hotels and march. We marched up to Waikiki Beach and did a whole stand-up show right there with the ocean right there. That was really cool. So 76, 77, 78, like I said, best years of my life. I loved the band. We had girlfriends, muscle cars, drums. That's what we lived for. It was great.
I wish I could have gone to Hawaii.
Oh yeah. I feel so lucky that I was there during that period. It was really fun. And we were just 17, 18-year-olds on the island. 18, by the way, was the drinking age, legal drinking age in Hawaii. So a bit of that happened.
I'm sure it did.
Yeah, yeah. So super fun, and then we get into 1979 and, the notorious lockout. What can I say about that?
Yeah, what caused the walkout? I always wondered that.
Well, I guess just in general, I would say things that were kind of smoldering and heating up between the drum section and Marvin. Admittedly, we were a rowdy group of guys, mischievous. We'd pull pranks. We'd do things. We'd get in trouble. Um, and it just all kind of came to the head. So kind of what happened was some of the drummers were accused of an act of vandalism in the Milliken parking lot, and they denied it. So Marvin kind of instituted a disciplinary action. He randomly pulled suspects, drummers, from playing, from practicing and marching parades even, and said, until someone comes forward, you guys are out. So basically it was a standoff. We said, screw that, if they don't march, we don't march. And that's the most simplest way I can put it. It was just standoff. And unfortunately, there really wasn't a mediator, somebody to come in the middle between Marvin and the drummers to kind of smooth it out. So came to a head. And on a given afternoon at Vet Stadium in 1979, we walked, because he wasn't going to let the drummers play that he thought were suspects. And we weren't going to march without, we were so dedicated to each other, so loyal, that we walked on their behalf. So for those of you who were there, you would remember a long procession, single file of the drummer cars, sacking it up and heading out. And that was that day.
Yeah, I wasn't in the band. Yeah, I came shortly
Yeah.
after that.
Yeah. So we drove to, I don't know if this tradition continued, but we drove to our Ramblers site. There was a drummer thing called Midnight Ramblers, where goes back a few years. It used to be a site behind the Arby's where the trucks would gather, and the
Oh, yeah.
buses, the band trucks, were behind the Arby's parking lot, the alleyway. That was the original Midnight Ramblers for the drummers. And then that moved to Ramblers on the corner of Spring Street and Los Coyotes. There's a Zodi's store there and a gas station. The new Ramblers was there. So for anyone who doesn't know what happened to the drummers that day, after we drove off, we drove to Ramblers, parked our cars there. And there we stood going, what did we just do? What do
So
we do?
this was the birth of LGSD, correct?
Yes. There was a brief sort of conversation about possibly, approaching Marvin and trying to, most of us were like 19, 20. We had maybe a year or less left. And we talked about that, even if we were allowed back, we're in our last year, kind of went back and forth like that. And we just thought, and then someone pitched this idea, well, why don't we just start our own drum section? Wow. Okay. Can a syncopated drum section march without a band in front of it? That was the experiment, So for a brief moment, we talked about going back. That was quickly replaced by, let's just start our own drum section. There's no age limit. We can play as long as we want, into our 20s, 30s, as long as we want. So we started getting excited about that. And yes, Mark, that was the birth of pulling together our own drum section, which we named the Last Generation of Syncopated Drummers. And that,
Well,
I was one of the founders. We had to pull together an idea for a uniform. We went British Guard, for those of you who know our uniform. I'm sure most of you do. Black, red, white shako with the point, British Guard style. White drums, and we even had white gauntlets and gloves until that became impractical during the drumming. Looked really sharp. We had to raise money for uniforms and drums. We had yard sales, car washes, we started instituting dues, monthly dues. Those guys that had jobs were able to pay. We raised money for the rest. One of the Mark Bergendahl's dad donated a used car that he just wanted to get rid of. He says, "You guys can sell it for a couple thousand, take the money." Stuff like that. We just pulled together. We had to recruit. We recruited our girlfriends. They came with us. Some pageantry girls came with us to form our color guard. Talk about a show of loyalty. Terry, thanks for coming with us and others. And they designed a uniform, a really nice uniform for a color guard. And we had the LGSD flag, American flag, California flag, rifles, and the banner, last generation. And then 1, 2, 3 ranks and symbol in the back. And what else was I going to say about that? Our first parade was Mission Viejo parade. Mission Viejo in 1979 was still being built. It was still houses under construction and stuff. But I think the parade was on Aliso Drive or something like that. I don't remember. But it went well. The crowd received us just like it's same as LBJCB. They loved the drums. So we were on our way. We played all of the traditional concert band cadences, and we made up cadences of our own. So it was a mix. The cadences that were written were they blended in well with the old cadences. So long story short, we were very active. We entered competitive parades. By the way, Marvin Marker was the judge on many of these parades that we marched. Dave Gepforth would always salute him specifically. We took some trophies, which, syncopated drum section didn't think we'd win any trophies, nothing fancy, but we had very straight ranks. We were very precise. We called ourselves Last Generation, almost like throwing down the gauntlet, like we're perfecting this style. Try to beat us, kind of a thing, We're calling ourselves Last Generation, prove us wrong. And we were obsessed for 3 years. LGSD lasted, and we were just obsessed with perfecting it, writing new cadences, and being an example, actually just an example for Marvin, really, of how much the syncopated drums meant to us. We went on, we thought we'd go on for quite a while, but it ultimately lasted about 3 or so years, LGSD.
Well, you're familiar that I started at RSR, right?
I heard, yes. So I can appreciate what all that entails.
Oh yeah. Plus, they're in their 40th year anniversary this year.
Oh, fantastic! Congratulations. That's great.
Yeah,
hats off. Yeah, hats off. That's awesome. And all the other drummers that have started their own corps, I know all that it entails. I was there myself, and the ones to lead it too. I mean, Dave Gepforth basically had to assume the Marvin Marker mantle, and he had to corral a bunch of 20, 21-year-old dudes who were kind of growing out of the disciplinary, style of taking orders and, all this and that. So, it's a challenge to run a group of guys, and so I have a lot of respect for you, Mark, and other, Fred and others who have started their own drum section. Greg Odell, I live not far from him. All that he's done up here, with LRSD, fantastic, keeping it going. And so there's a whole second part of that, LGSD ending in 1981. And I know we don't have a lot of time, but we reunited. So here's the other part, and I'll try to get it in before our time runs out. I guess if we have to do a part 2, we can. But after LGSD split in 1981, our last parade was Southgate, December, Southgate, 1981. We knew it would be our last. We were 22 or so. Guys were starting to get married, get careers, go to college. it just kind of pulled at us until we just said, let's call it. That's Southgate will be our last parade. So it was a big, very dramatic, very special parade. We knew it was going to be our last. We put our all into it. And my dad took home movie footage of us marching and then hugging, after the circle up. And we took a big group picture of everybody, the gals, everybody, which I cherish because that photo represents 25 people, men and women, who are going to go off from that day and just do other things. So there was after LGSD, 7 years went by. 1988, we reunited for the Belmont Shore Parade. That was the Quinn's Pub green sweatshirt parade. Quinn's Pub on 2nd Street sponsored us, and we wore their green sweatshirts, white bandanas, sweats, very comfortable, the most comfortable I'd ever been playing drums. It's always been a heavy uniform. And that was fun. And that we recruited Randy Eves, Brad Freeman, who played tenor, Jeff Jameson played cymbals. So that was kind of the start of, more people, guys from Long Beach Junior Concert Band coming in and trying out and getting into LGSD. I forgot to mention when LGSD formed, we recruited some band members from LBJCB, Joe Cleland, Brian Cass, Roger Davis. They wanted to have a shot at being in the drum section, and they tried out and got in. Same thing in 88. After the 88 parade, 10 years, nothing. 98, I get married, my wedding day. I recruit 7 drummers to play at my reception and played in front of 150 people. They loved it, went crazy. That started the wheel spinning for, guys, should we reunite? 1988, now we're like 30, late 30s in age. We put out the word, guys started coming out of the woodwork. Most of us still had our white drums in the garage. And from 98, to 2004 was a reunion period where LGSD came back.
Yeah,
we played.
I remember that. I was running RSR at that time.
Right on. Yeah. So we did all kinds of stuff. We marched Belmont Shore Parade and Huntington Beach 4th of July Parade, which was great. We did a bunch of stuff. Played at Staples Center, Ice Dogs Hockey, Long Beach State Pyramid, all the parades. Just socially getting back together, going to Mari's Pizza, stuff like that. So after 2004, and it was productive. So in 2004, we got Huell Hauser down there. Do you remember California Gold?
Yes.
Yes. I called him. He came down. He filmed an episode. We also got in a recording studio and we have a CD of all of the traditional concert band cadences and LGSD cadence. We went into a professional studio and got that done at the top of our game. So there's a CD that we did. Newsletters, articles. I wrote articles. Very productive time, So after 2004, another 7 years, drum roll, 2011, LGSD came back for one more Belmont Shore Parade. That was the last parade. Awesome. We had 3 last parades throughout, 3 last parades.
All right,
so that in a nutshell is it.
I'm gonna have to cut this short. I'm running out of recording time here.
Awesome. I made it to the end.
Yeah, we'll have to do a part 2 maybe.
Sure. Anybody wants to, I could talk more about LGSD, but that's it in a nutshell. I'm proud to be a syncopated drummer, man. Awesome. Age 15 to 52. Keep it going, Mark.
I no longer run a RSR, but they're doing awesome.
That's great to hear. Power to you guys out there. Mark, this is a great thing you're doing from afar. Guys, come forward, tell your story.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Mark. Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah. Take care.
All right. All right, everyone. Make sure you subscribe. Take care.